All right, so today we're going deep on 4chan.
Okay.
You know it for the memes, right?
Yeah,
But there's a lot more to this corner of the internet.
there is.
We were talking early internet culture,
Yes.
hacktivism,
Yeah.
even some of the darker sides of online anonymity.
Yeah, it really is fascinating.
So are you ready to explore 4chan?
Absolutely. It's a total paradox.
Okay, how so?
Well, it starts as this accidental experiment in online freedom,
Uh-huh.
but then it ends up influencing global activism
Right.
and, of course, memes.
The memes. Yeah, it all started with a
Oh,
15-year-old.
I know, right?
An anime.
Back in 2003.
Christopher Mootpool
Yeah.
creates 4chan
Yeah.
based on this Japanese site called 2chan.
Right.
But like 2003.
Yeah.
That's before social media as we know it.
It was a very different internet.
No Instagram,
Nope.
no
Uh-uh.
TikTok,
No.
nothing.
It's crazy to think about now.
What was it like?
Well, 2chan and then 4chan were these early online communities.
Okay.
We call them image boards,
Image board.
where people shared pictures,
Uh-huh.
discussed different topics.
Okay, but what made 4chan different?
Well, Pool designed it with very minimal moderation,
Interesting.
allowing for anonymity
Okay.
and basically unfiltered content.
So that was pretty radical at the time.
Oh, absolutely.
So basically it was like the Wild West of the internet.
Right.
No sheriff, no rules,
Just a whole lot of digital tumbleweeds.
and the occasional showdown.
Exactly.
Did that lack of structure shape 4chan's identity?
For sure it did.
Okay, how?
While that openness attracted a diverse crowd.
Uh-huh.
Techies, gamers,
Okay.
artists, and, well,
Like
let's
so-
just say some interesting characters,
Oh, I
people you wouldn't find on your average message board.
gotcha.
It was a melting pot.
Okay.
Creativity,
Uh-huh.
chaos.
And everything in between.
Yep, and that's where the infamous B board comes in.
Ah, B. The stuff of internet legend,
That's right, the random board.
where literally anything goes.
Anything.
So many iconic memes came from B, right?
Definitely
Interesting.
LOL Cats, Rickrolling, Pepe the Frog.
Wow.
They can all trace their roots back to B.
Okay, but why did those memes catch on so fast?
That's a great question.
What was it about B that made it a meme factory?
Well, I think part of it was the anonymity, right?
Yeah.
People felt free to experiment, to be outrageous,
Uh-huh.
to push boundaries
Yeah.
that they couldn't on other sites.
Makes sense.
Plus, the volume and speed of content on B,
Okay.
it meant that only the catchy stuff would survive.
So it was like natural selection for memes.
Exactly, but that freedom also has a flip side,
Right. We can't talk about B without the dark stuff, too.
unfortunately.
Like pushing boundaries is one thing,
Yeah,
but B also had offensive content.
right.
Hate speech, even harassment campaigns.
Sadly, yes.
It's like there's this tension, right?
Yeah.
Between creativity and disturbing stuff.
That tension is a big part of what makes 4chan so complex
Oh, okay.
and fascinating.
It's like the good, the bad, and the ugly of internet culture.
Exactly. And out of that chaos came something unexpected.
What was that?
Anonymous?
Wait, Anonymous, the hacktivist group,
The one and only.
with the real-world protests and cyber campaigns,
Yes.
started on 4chan?
It did.
That's mind-blowing.
I know, right?
So the term Anonymous was already online,
It was.
but 4chan, and especially B, gave it new life.
Exactly. Remember, this was a community built on anonymity.
Right.
It created this feeling of collective identity.
Without real names or faces.
Right. And early anonymous raids were more like pranks.
Prank?
Like they'd target online games,
Oh, okay.
like Habbo Hotel.
I think I've heard of that.
They'd disrupt the virtual world
In what way?
with coordinated, often absurd actions.
I've read about those.
Really?
Yeah, like avatars dressed as construction workers
Yeah.
blocking the pool.
Yep.
Disruptive, for sure.
Yeah,
Hilarious to some, unsettling to others.
for sure.
Do you think that was a turning point for Anonymous?
It might have been.
Why?
Well, they were testing the limits of these virtual spaces,
Okay.
exploring the power of collective action.
Interesting.
But things got way more serious in 2008 Project Chinology.
Ooh, wow, that was huge.
Yeah, what?
They clashed with the Church of Scientology.
Yeah,
It made international headlines.
it did.
What happened?
Well, it started with a leaked video of Tom Cruise
Okay.
praising Scientology.
Yeah.
The church tried to suppress it.
And Anonymous saw that as an attack on free speech.
Exactly. And launched a full-blown campaign.
Wow.
They organized protests
Yeah,
outside Scientology centers
worldwide.
worldwide.
That's crazy.
And they adopted the Guy Fawkes mask as their symbol.
The masks from V for Vendetta.
That's the one.
That visual is so iconic.
It is.
And their slogan gave me chills.
We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Wow, so bold.
It
Like they were this decentralized global force
right.
taking on powerful institutions. So we went from a 15-year-old's image board
Yeah.
to memes to a global movement.
I know, it's wild, right?
It's quite a journey.
It is.
What happens next?
Well, Anonymous didn't stop there. Yeah, they were involved in some major events.
Like what?
WikiLeaks, the Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street.
Wow, so they went from online pranks to real-world activism.
It's pretty amazing.
But that anonymity we talked about,
yeah,
it's not always a good thing. Right.
that's true.
Like a double-edged sword.
Exactly, like with Gamergate.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
That was a dark chapter in internet history.
It was. What happened?
Basically, it was a coordinated harassment campaign,
Okay.
and a lot of it was fueled by the anonymity on sites like 4chan.
So people could hide behind fake names and profiles.
Right, and they targeted women in the gaming industry.
It's scary how something online can have real-world consequences.
It is, and it really changed how people saw 4chan.
Did it? How so?
Well, people started asking tougher questions about the responsibility of these platforms.
Okay.
Especially with that hands-off approach to moderation.
But 4chan is still around, right?
It is. It's been around for over 2 decades.
That's crazy.
I know, right? Why do you think that is?
Honestly, I have no idea.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, what's the secret to 4chan's survival?
Well, I think it fills a specific niche.
Okay, what do you mean?
So as the internet becomes more regulated,
Mhm.
4chan remains this place for unfiltered content.
So if you want to say whatever you want,
Exactly.
4chan is the place to go.
And to be anonymous.
Okay, so it's like a reaction against all the rules online.
Right. Other platforms are cracking down on content.
And 4chan is like, come on in, the water's fine.
Yeah, it's like a refuge for people who feel stifled.
Makes sense. Anything else?
Oh, yeah, it's also decentralized.
What does that mean?
It means there's no single point of failure.
Okay.
So even if one part gets shut down,
Oh.
another part can pop up somewhere else.
Like a game of whack-a-mole?
More like a hydra. You cut off one head and 2 more grow back.
So it's impossible to control.
Pretty much, yeah.
But what about the users?
Ah, yes, the users.
They must be a big part of this too, right?
They are. They're fiercely loyal.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They love the culture, the community.
Even the crazy stuff.
Even the crazy stuff, they're committed to free expression.
Even in its most extreme forms.
That's right. It's like they're a tribe.
Bound together by shared values.
And the love for the unpredictable.
It's kind of beautiful in a weird way.
It is. And within that community, you have incredible creativity.
We've talked about the memes.
Yes, but there's also new forms of art and music.
And even technology.
Remember Doge?
The Shiba Inu dog.
Yes, that started on 4chan.
That was huge. It wasn't just a meme.
It spawned a cryptocurrency.
Dogecoin.
Exactly. It shows how 4chan can turn random ideas into global phenomena.
That's pretty remarkable.
It is. But we can't forget the dark side.
Right. The same anonymity that fuels the good stuff
Yeah.
also shields people spreading hate speech.
Conspiracy theories, even calls to violence.
It's tough to find the balance.
It really is.
But-
It makes you think about Moot's responsibility.
Moot. You mean Christopher Poole?
Yeah, the creator of 4chan.
Okay, what about him?
Well, he built this platform for anonymous expression.
Right.
But he also saw it being used for harm.
So what's his legacy? It's complicated, isn't it?
It is.
He created this online phenomenon,
And it had a huge impact on internet culture.
but he also saw it become something he didn't intend.
Yeah, he actually stepped away from 4chan.
Really?
Sold it to a Japanese company.
Wow, why?
He said he felt disillusioned
By what?
by some aspects of the culture.
The darker elements.
Exactly. It's a question we're still grappling with.
What question?
The responsibility of platform creators,
For the content shared on their site?
especially when it's anonymous and unmoderated.
That's a big question.
And it's even more relevant today.
How
When
so?
we're dealing with misinformation.
Online harassment,
Yes.
extremist content.
It's happening on a much larger scale.
So 4chan was like a warning sign.
In a way, yeah.
It's a microcosm of the internet's challenges.
The tension between free expression and potential harm.
And we're still trying to figure it out.
We are.
But where do we go from here?
It's hard to say. 4chan is always adapting.
It's survived controversy and kept its identity.
But it's facing new challenges.
From outside and inside the community.
There's this tension between preserving its anarchic spirit.
And addressing the toxic elements.
It's a battle for the soul of 4chan.
And the outcome will impact the whole internet.
It will, because 4chan is a microcosm of this ongoing struggle.
The struggle to balance free expression and accountability online,
Exactly. 4chan shows us the messy reality of human interaction.
just in a digital format,
It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths,
about ourselves and the potential for good and bad.
online and offline.
So as we finish this deep dive into 4chan,
Yeah.
what's the one big question our listeners should think about?
I think the question is this. In an increasingly controlled online world, what's the value and the danger of a truly free space like 4chan?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right.
Yeah, because on the one hand, you have all this potential for creativity,
Yeah.
for movements to emerge, for pushing boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, there's the risk of it becoming a breeding ground for hate and harassment.
Right. It's a tough balance.
It really is.
I think the answer is different for everyone.
Yeah, probably.
It depends on your values,
Uh-huh.
your experience, your comfort level with risk.
Okay.
But it's a question we should all ask ourselves online.
Because 4chan isn't just some isolated corner of the internet.
Right.
It's a microcosm of trends we see everywhere online.
Absolutely.
Questions about content moderation, free speech, the responsibility of users and creators.
It's a reminder that the internet is constantly evolving.
What works today might not work tomorrow.
Exactly. We need to be adaptable,
And be critical thinkers.
always willing to reevaluate our assumptions.
Because 4chan is like this spotlight on human interaction.
But in a digital format.
It forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths
About ourselves.
about the potential for good and bad in any community.
It's a reminder that the internet isn't a utopia.
It's not
It's a mirror.
a mirror.
Okay. It reflects our values, our biases.
Our capacity for creativity and cruelty.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into 4chan,
Yeah.
what's the key takeaway you hope our listeners will remember?
Approach the internet and all its communities with curiosity,
Okay.
but also a critical eye.
Gotcha.
Don't be afraid to explore, to question, to challenge your assumptions.
Because ultimately the future of the internet is shaped by all of us.
It is.
Well said. And to our listener, now that you've seen 4chan up close,
Yeah.
how do you see its place in the larger internet landscape?
Does it make you think differently about the online spaces you use every day?
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And remember, the internet is vast. There are countless other corners to explore, communities to discover, and new perspectives to encounter.
So keep learning.
Stay curious and keep diving deep.
That's it for our deep dive into 4chan.
A journey into internet culture, memes, and anonymity.
We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit entertaining.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And most importantly, keep learning.